Alright, you guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. It is your boy Tornadoes Man, and I am back with a brand new video. This week I will be dropping videos back to back because I do not know how this tornado season is going to turn out. So I will be dropping 4 new videos this week, and all 4 of those videos will drop today. But besides that, I have a special surprise for you guys next week. Next week we will be doing a live stream to recap all of the past videos we have done in the past, and also I'm not sure, but we may be going storm chasing in May, and that will be one of my most exciting moments. That's only if my cousin will be going storm chasing this season. So we are supposed to be actually going storm chasing in May, but I hope he wants to do it. And if he can't come get me, I will do my normal job, which is being on my radar and checking storms as I do every year, which that is somewhat of still storm chasing. You do not actually have to be out there in these cities watching and capturing these storms to be a storm chaser. If you are a storm chaser, be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and do it in your own possible way. Well, in today's video is the tornado outbreak, is the tornado outbreak of March 13th through March 16th of 2025. But this is not going to be the title of that video. This is the Missouri, Arkansas. This is the Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi tornado outbreak of March 13th through March 16th of 2025. Let's read our article of today. From March 13th to March 16th, 2025, a widespread and deadly tornado outbreak, the largest on record for the month of March, affected much of the Midwestern into the eastern United States, with additional severe weather and impacts on the East Coast. The Storm Prediction Center, SPC, first issued a moderate risk for severe weather from parts of the Midwest and Southeast on March 14th as a large upper-level trough moved west over the Rockies. The Day 2 outlook was upgraded to a tornado-driven high-risk area for portions of Mississippi and Alabama, making it the third ever issuance of Day 2 high risk, with the provisions 2 being for April 7, 2006 and April 14, 2012. So that is our article of today.
March 14th, a moderate risk for severe weather was issued for the much of Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri, with a 15% risk for significant tornadoes centered around southern Illinois and southeastern Missouri. 5. In the early evening, a PDS tornado watch was issued for portions of southeast Missouri, northeast Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and more. 7. Among the tornadoes that touched down that day were a long-track, high-end EF3 tornado that tracked through southern Missouri and prompted the issuance of a tornado emergency for Fremont and Van Buren, an EF2 tornado that moved into the greater St. Louis area, notably crossing a street. Use Lambert International Airport runway while a plane was taking off, a high-end EF4 tornado that caused catastrophic damage to a farm and rural neighborhood near and in Diaz, Arkansas, a very long-track, low-end EF4 tornado that struck near 56 and Franklin, Arkansas, an EF3 tornado that killed 3 people in Bakersfield, Missouri, a long-track, high NDF3 tornado that went through Cushman and Cave City, Arkansas, killing 3, and a low NDF3 tornado that killed 1 person after ripping through a trailer park near Poplar Bluff, Missouri. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. March 15th, the SPC continued the high-risk area, delineating the potential for a widespread outbreak to occur with long-track and potentially violent tornadoes expected, with particularly dangerous situation, PDS, tornado watches being issued for the respective regions. In the early afternoon, a tornado emergency was issued for parts of Wolfville, Lawrence, Marion, and Jefferson Davis counties in Mississippi as a large, violent, long-track EF4 tornado was moving through the area. 6 people were killed and 14 others were injured by this tornado. 13 tornadoes continued in Mississippi and Alabama throughout the afternoon and evening, including an EF2 tornado that struck Winterboro, Alabama, damaging a high school and killing 1 person, and an EF3 that killed 2 people near Plantersville, Alabama. 14. On March 16, a slight risk for tornadoes was issued for the South Atlantic states as several weak tornadoes touched down across the East Coast. At least 44 people were killed by tornadoes and other weather-related impacts across 8 states. 3, 1, 5, 1, 6. Additional non-tornadic impacts associated with the system involved damaging straight-line winds that fueled wildfires in Oklahoma and a dust storm in some areas as a result further east near the upper Midwest. With a total of 118 confirmed tornadoes, the outbreak became the largest ever in the month of March, and received a score of 147 on the Outbreak Intensity Score, OIS, classifying it as a historic outbreak. The outbreak caused $11 billion in damages, making it the costliest tornado outbreak in United States history when unadjusted for inflation. 17a. Meteorological synopsis. Background. Early as March 7, 2025, the Storm Prediction Center, SPC, began monitoring the threat of severe weather posed by a vigorous large-scale trough ejection over the high plains and upper Midwest. At that point, the large spread in possible outcomes represented in numerical weather prediction computer models prevented the SPC from designating a specific area at risk. 1-8, by March 9, a 15% severe risk area was introduced for March 14 over the Mississippi Valley and for March 15 over the South. 19, these areas were both upgraded to a 30% risk for severe weather on March 10, as multiple forecast models began to come into agreement on an all-hazards threat of wind, hail, and tornadoes, including a supercell-focused mode potentially evolving into a QLCS threat. 2.0, an outlook on March 11 described the March 14 system as anomalously intense upper cyclone, with a second upper-level trough expected to produce severe weather on March 15. 2.1. March 13, the SPC upgraded the risk for March 14 into a moderate 4/5 risk over parts of the middle Mississippi Valley, including much of Illinois and Missouri, alongside small parts of Iowa, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Tennessee. This risk was described as a regional outbreak of severe storms, driven by the risk of storms producing swaths of damaging winds potentially in excess of 65 km, 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour, over the region, with areas further south expected to be conducive to the development of strong tornadoes later in the day. 22. The outlook for March 15 was also upgraded to a moderate 4/5 risk as an environment more conducive for significant tornadoes as favorable wind profiles alongside moderate instability produced the conditions necessary for robust updrafts and intense supercells. A conditional risk was also highlighted further north into Ohio and Kentucky, which were expected to face a primarily non-severe event, reliant on the intensity of convection further south that could stabilize the atmosphere. 23. That same day, as the system moved through the west coast, 24, it spawned a high-end EF0 tornado in the Los Angeles area. 25. The 1730Z Day 2 outlook on March 14th, a high 5/5 risk was introduced over parts of Mississippi and Alabama, driven by the risk of a tornado outbreak. 2/6. This was just the third time that the Storm Prediction Center issued a high risk for its Day 2 outlook since 2006, the other two occurring on April 7, 2006 and April 14, 2012. 27. March 14th. The SPC Day 1 convective outlook for March 14, 2025 at 2000Z, showing the widespread risk of severe weather across the Mississippi Valley and southeastern United States. States of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi were under a moderate risk for severe weather, as an unusually strong negatively tilted upper-level shortwave trough detected on satellite that morning was expected to produce an intense mid-level jet that followed its parent shortwave and moved towards the center of the continental United States. These features produced strong ascent, which, alongside a powerful surface cyclone expected to form and move from the central high plains towards the upper Midwest, produced the conditions necessary for the development of significant severe weather. Over much of the middle Mississippi Valley, strong diurnal heating was expected to occur, which, alongside a low-level jet to aid boundary-level moisture, allowed for the development of surface-based storms, which were expected to produce a single fast-moving band of convection that was expected to produce gusts up to 80 to 100 miles per hour, 130 to 160 kilometers per hour, over the region. 28. Further to the southeast over Missouri, forecasters outlined the risk of more discrete thunderstorms developing on the northern edge of a more concentrated area of low-level moisture. These storms were expected to form into at least semi-discrete supercells due to the presence of strong upper-level flow and strong deep-layer shear. The HRRR model suggested that widespread supercells could develop late in the afternoon, potentially as far south as the border of Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee, with soundings of other forecast models, including the NOM model, favoring the development of intense supercells capable of producing large hail of 2 to 3 in 5.1 to 7.6 centimeters, and potentially significant or intense tornadoes. 28. Throughout the lower Mississippi Valley, lesser forcing was expected to preclude any possibility of widespread severe weather, but forecasters noted that the atmosphere were capable of producing supercells, some of which had the hazard for large hail, damaging winds, or tornadoes, for any supercells that sustained themselves. 28. Able to play media. Play video. A violent tornado in Diaz, Arkansas on the night of March 14. First complex of storms had emerged by 10:25 a.m. Central Daylight Time, UTC-5, over southern Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma, which moved into a region of high atmospheric stability and strong convective inhibition, with a minimal severe hazard risk expected to be limited to small hail up to 1.25 in 3.2 centimeters. 29. The Storm Prediction Center was expecting the formation of an intense squall line to initiate between 3 and 5 p.m. that afternoon. 30. In the evening, a PDS tornado watch was issued for an area in the Mississippi Valley, with severe thunderstorms expected to develop in conditions primed for supercells capable of producing strong, long-track tornadoes. 31. As forecast, numerous supercells began developing across the main risk area, and numerous tornadoes occurred, some of which were long-tracked and strong to violent. 3-2. March 15th. A map of the United States, with different The Storm Prediction Center Day 1 Convective Outlook issued March 15, 2025 at 1300Z, indicating a high risk for severe weather across parts of Mississippi and Alabama. Large warm sector had developed over much of the Gulf Coast states, producing widespread dew points near 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius. That morning, storms had begun developing across the northern edge of the area of elevated moisture. Temperatures to the south and east of these storms were expected to rise to 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 to 27 degrees Celsius, with multiple bands of convection expected to initiate between 12 and 2 p.m. Central Daylight Saving Time. Moderate levels of Cape-based instability, ranging from 1500 to 2500 J per kilogram, and elongated hodographs, forecasted to produce 400 to 500 meters 2 per second 2 storm relative helicity in the first kilometer of the atmosphere, was expected to favor the rapid development of intense supercells, and alongside strong significant tornado parameter, STP, values of 5 to 10, were expected to produce numerous tornadoes, some of which may be long track or violent, as the day progressed. 3-3. Large hardwood tree snapped by an EF3 tornado near Plantersville, Alabama. Further north, across northern Alabama and south-central Tennessee, the consolidation of storms was expected to bounce stronger tornadoes to an area further south, with the northern structure highlighted as a potential area for bowing segments and embedded supercells, prompting the SPC to highlight an area of higher wind risk over these areas. Across parts of Georgia and western South and North Carolina, a weakly unstable air mass alongside intense mid-level flow was expected to produce an environment capable of supporting supercell and line structures, with a risk highlighted for severe wind and tornadoes in the region. Storms from the previous day over the Ohio Valley was expected to continue east as the day progressed, producing a risk for hail and wind, but as the day progressed, forecasters noted the uncertainty of potential airmass recovery that could be conducive for a severe risk over Indiana and southern Michigan later that evening, with models only showing weak instability below 500 J per kilogram that morning. Soundings from Louisiana and Mississippi indicated that the warm sector included steep lapse rates of 7 to 8 degrees Celsius from the 700 to 500 millibar, 3013 to 5576 meters, 9,882 to 18,289 feet, layer. A 125 kn, 144 miles per hour, 232 kilometers per hour, jet at 250 millibars, 10,366 meters, 33,999 feet, was expected to strengthen the region's wind profile, which, in conjunction with a lower-level jet moving east throughout the day, produced an environment capable of all hazards, including the threat of strong tornadoes. 3-3. High-risk area continued into the Day 1 outlook, including a 30% hatched risk for significant tornadoes in central Mississippi and Alabama. 34. In the late morning, a PDS tornado watch was issued for parts of Louisiana and nearly all of Mississippi. 35. And later much of Alabama. 36. As a tornado outbreak featuring significant tornadoes, some of which should be long track and potentially violent, was expected throughout the afternoon and evening. 34. Confirmed tornadoes. See also, List of tornadoes in the outbreak of March 13 to 16, 2025. Confirmed tornadoes by enhanced Fujita rating. EFU, EF0, EF1, EF2, EF3, EF4, EF5. Total 0, 20, 53, 31, 11, 3, 0, 118. Malleole, Arkansas, Bakersfield, Frankville, Missouri. Malleole, Arkansas, Bakersfield, Frankville, Missouri. The tornado near Bakersfield. Meteorological history. Formed March 14, 2025, 8:34 p.m. CD dissipated March 14, 2025, 9:16 p.m. CDT, UTC 5 o'clock. Duration 42 minutes. F3 tornado. On the enhanced Fujita scale. This large, long-tracked, intense tornado first touched down at 8:34 p.m. CDT in the town of Gamaliel, Arkansas in Baxter County. It moved northeastward along AR 101 at EF1 intensity, damaging a post office and a fire station. 37. Continuing northeastward, the tornado snapped or uprooted dozens of trees as it approached and crossed the Arkansas, Missouri border into Ozark County, Missouri. 37. The tornado intensified as it moved into the southern part of Bakersfield, partially destroying multiple homes and structures along County Road 585. 38. Northeast of there, the tornado snapped more trees before intensifying further to EF3 strength as it crossed Route AR on the south side of Bakersfield. One home was swept away while another one had its roof removed and some exterior walls knocked down. A large tank was lofted and thrown near the destroyed home. The tornado then reached its peak intensity as it turned to the east-northeast and crossed County Road 589, where a home was unroofed and had multiple exterior walls knocked down, and nearby trees were snapped and uprooted, with some ground scouring noted. Winds at this location were estimated to be at 145 miles per hour, 233 kilometers per hour. The outer circulation of the tornado also impacted Bakersfield itself, damaging more homes and the First Baptist Church, 39, destroying the town's baseball and softball complex, and uprooting and snapping trees. 40. Home completely swept from its foundation in southeast Bakersfield, Missouri. Moving east-northeast, the tornado struck the Zastro Hill area on the east side of Bakersfield, where multiple block foundation mobile homes were rolled and destroyed, and another home was leveled and swept away. Debris from these homes was strewn across a nearby hill and along a tree line. 3 people were killed and another person was injured in one of the mobile homes. 12 vehicles from the homes in this area were mangled and flattened, with some missing parts of their wheel structure. 41, and cars were rolled 50 to 100 yards. 40. After crossing Route 142 northeast of Bakersfield, the tornado uprooted large swaths of trees. Entire groves of trees were debarked and shredded, with some low-lying vegetation debarked and denuded. 42. The tornado then weakened to high-end EF1 intensity, leaving cyclonic patterns in the forest as it crossed into Howell County. 37. North of the community of Letta, the tornado re-strengthened and obliterated a mobile home at high-end EF2 intensity, injuring 3 people. Several homes nearby suffered significant roof damage, with large sections of their roofs removed, along with an exterior wall or 2 knocked down. 37. Tornado continued east-northeastward at EF2 intensity, leveling an old milk barn along Route FF with only the roof structure being left intact. Numerous trees nearby were uprooted in a cyclonic pattern, and another outbuilding suffered roof damage. 37. The tornado destroyed another cinder block foundation mobile home along County Road 6810 before weakening to EF0 intensity as it crossed Route E, causing only minor to moderate tree damage as it continued east-northeastward. The tornado regained EF1 intensity to the west of China, where several roof decks were ripped off of homes along County Road 6450, with moderate tree damage noted. 37. Multiple outbuildings along Route JJ were severely damaged, another home had roof damage and its roof deck removed, and several trees were uprooted. 37. The tornado briefly intensified to mid-range EF2 intensity after crossing Route 17 near Coppice. A 2-story brick home was significantly damaged, with portions of the roof removed and parts of the paneling walls collapsing. Another home nearby had most of its roof deck removed, and an outbuilding was destroyed. 37. The tornado then struck Frankville at EF1 intensity, inflicting heavy roof damage to a warehouse along US 63. 37. The last area of damage that was found from this tornado occurred along US 160 east of West Plains, where trees were uprooted at EF0 intensity. The tornado then dissipated as it crossed the highway at 9:16 p.m. CDT. 37. The tornado traveled 35.74 miles, 57.52 kilometers, and reached a maximum width of 1,200 yards, 1,100 meters, during its 42-minute lifespan, causing 3 fatalities and 4 reported injuries. 12:37:43, after the tornado, FEMA set up a relief shelter at the Bakersfield school. 56 Larkin Ravenden Springs, Arkansas, fair dealing, Missouri. Large, very long-tracked, violent tornado touched down 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers, northeast of Alco, and around 8 miles, 13 kilometers, southwest of 56 in Stone County at 9:12 p.m. CDT 37:44. Initially, the tornado stayed mainly at EF1 intensity, snapping and uprooting several softwood trees and inflicting minor damage to home. The tornado quickly strengthened to low-end EF3 intensity as it struck the small town of 56. Along AR-14, a double-wide mobile home was obliterated and lofted hundreds of yards downstream. Nearby, some cabins were shifted off their foundation and destroyed, and a freestanding garage was demolished. 45, 46, 37, 47. After moving away from 56, the tornado moved through the Blanchard Springs recreational area. A remote automated weather station, RAWS, recorded a wind gust of 151 miles per hour, 243 kilometers per hour. Several trees across the meadow bluff were snapped and uprooted at high-end EF2 intensity. A falling tree injured a camper as well. Near the intersection of Stone County Road 52 and Green Road, an estimated 1,000 yards, 910 meters, of uprooted trees were noted here, as well as a well-defined convergent pattern. Many more trees were blown down on a hillside as it crossed AR-5. 46, 37, 48. Tornado then crossed the White River into Izard County, downing several more trees at low-end EF2 intensity along the river and near Boswell. The tornado passed through the south of the community of Boswell before moving through areas just north of Jumbo. Hundreds of trees were snapped, power lines were downed, and additional structural damage occurred. 49. The tornado maintained low-end EF2 intensity south of Knob Creek. Numerous large hardwood trees were blown down as the tornado continued to track east-northeastward through mainly rural areas, crossing La Crosse Road between Violet Hill and Larkin. 50, 51, 52. A 2-story home swept away near Larkin, Arkansas at low-end EF4 intensity. Tornado abruptly intensified to low-end EF4 intensity northwest of Larkin. A well-built home was destroyed and swept away at 170 miles per hour, 270 kilometers per hour, leaving an extensive debris field downstream. A vehicle nearby was lofted and thrown into a pond behind the property. 37. The tornado quickly weakened to low-end EF2 intensity as it crossed Larkin Road. A small home experienced a collapse of its exterior walls, and a couple of outbuildings were destroyed. After the slight weakening, the tornado rapidly intensified to EF4 strength. A well-anchored 2-story home was demolished and swept away, with the main level floor still attached to the foundation. The double-doored garage and a large covered porch likely contributed to the home collapsing as they faced the south side of the home, where the tornadic winds and the storm motion were hitting the most. 37. An outbuilding sustained major roof damage, and a nearby metal building was severely damaged, with most of its internal structure intact. The tornado continued tracking through rural areas, severely damaging another home and a metal building along Abbey Quarry Lane. Passing through areas south of Franklin, the tornado strengthened to low-end EF4 intensity for the 3rd time. A home along Easy K Road was completely destroyed. 37. Trees nearby were debarked, several vehicles were heavily damaged, and a nearby metal shop building was also completely demolished. 2 residents of the home survived but were severely injured. 37. Tornado then moved into Sharp County and crossed US 167, AR 56 south of Ash Flat at mid-range EF2 intensity, inflicting significant damage to a home and demolishing an outbuilding. Along US 167, a well-anchored outbuilding was blown off sideways, multiple trees were snapped and uprooted, several homes sustained moderate damage, and a camper trailer was demolished. Along the intersection of Game Reserve Road and Liberty Hill Road, the tornado strengthened to high-end EF2 intensity. A home was shifted off its foundation, with nearby trees being snapped and uprooted. The tornado moved northeastward and crossed US 412, US 62, US 63, destroying outbuildings and pushing a house off its foundation. The tornado continued to damage trees and outbuildings before moving into Randolph County and striking Ravenden Springs as it moved along AR 90, where more trees were snapped or uprooted. East of the town, more trees, along with a couple of homes, were damaged. The tornado then crossed the 11-Point River in AR 93 south of Dalton, continuing to cause mainly tree damage. It then passed near Hamel as it reached its peak intensity along AR 231, damaging several structures and destroying many outbuildings and a home. The tornado then continued northeastward and crossed AR 251 between Warm Springs and Palestine, uprooting and snapping many trees, while also damaging or destroying more outbuildings and a mobile home. 37. Tornado then passed near Brakeville and crossed AR 115, causing mainly tree damage before crossing into Ripley County, Missouri southeast of Pointer, snapping more trees at high-end EF1 intensity. Just after crossing the state line, a manufactured home was overturned from its foundation at EF2 strength. The person inside the home sheltered in their bathtub and survived with only minor injuries. The tornado then continued northeastward as it approached and passed near Pulaski after crossing Route 142 at EF1-EF2 intensity, inflicting roof damage to homes, damaging or overturning mobile homes, destroying an outbuilding, damaging and snapping power poles, downing large swaths of trees, including trees that fell on and caused additional damage to outbuildings and homes. The tornado then abruptly turned due east and passed through Fairdealing, snapping and uprooting trees at EF1 intensity. The tornado then re-intensified to EF2 intensity as it moved into Butler County, Missouri, and turned back toward the northeast, inflicting severe damage to multiple homes in and east of Fairdealing, which suffered severe damage, with their roofs being partially or completely destroyed. The tornado snapped an additional trees and wooden power poles before abruptly dissipating as it approached County Road 480. 37:53. Tornado was the longest-lived tornado by track and duration of the outbreak, traveling 118.95 miles, 191.43 kilometers, and reaching a maximum width of 1,400 yards, 1,300 meters, during its 133-minute lifespan. 37. AR 14 and 56 was closed due to the damage caused by the tornado. 54. According to preliminary information from the National Weather Service, Little Rock, Arkansas, over 25% of 56 sustained damage from the tornado. 37. Alongside another EF4 tornado that struck Jackson County later into the night, this was the first time a violent tornado occurred in the state of Arkansas in nearly 11 years, since the 2014 Mayflower-Bologna tornado. 5-5.